On the 10th of March 1876, Scottish-born inventor Alexander Graham Bell made the first successful telephone call when he contacted his assistant, Thomas Watson. Recorded in his journal that he shouted the phrase, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." Watson soon appeared, saying that he heard the words clearly through the device.
Men in their flying machines, they go up to the up, they go down to the down, down. They enchant all the ladies and see all the scenes with their up to the up, and they're down to the down, down. Up and down, flying around, looping the loop and defying the ground. Up and down, they're frightfully keen, those magnificent men in their flying machines.
Hey Sammy, how you doing? Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Spirit of Mackenzie YouTube channel, where I'm logging my 10-year odyssey to get my home-built seaplane into the air. Hey Sammy, we'll get this done. The goal is this summer to be flying. Good girl. So, just to give myself a ceiling of progress, I put up another decal. Experimental Aviation Association of wherever, worldwide organization of aviation enthusiasts, pilots, home builders. They're a large organization, and they offer a lot of events, training courses, local chapters, and probably most famous for their annual air show in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, which I had the great fortune of attending about 8 years ago. It's a huge show. About 10,000 planes are expected to come in for the air show for the whatever it is, 4 or 5 days of the event. And of those planes, only a small number are display planes or air show performers. The majority of them, the vast majority of them, are just private pilots and a large number of home-built or experimental airplanes, and they're builders and pilots. It's a lot of fun. I had the opportunity when I was there to actually go up for the second time in a Searey. I went up with Carrie Richter, who's the original designer of the Searey. We had a great flight over the lake and a really nice chat. I really enjoyed that experience, and what it really drove home to me was a strong feeling that this plane is really well designed, is very suited for its purpose, and it's a lot of fun, and I'd made the right choice in selecting this plane to build of all the planes that were available to be built from a kit. So anyway, that's the EAA. Tip my hat to all my fellow EAA members around the world. Okay, so what's on the agenda for today? Sammy, pay attention. Good girl. Stay aware of your surroundings at all times when in a plane. Okay, according to my task list, today I'm working on making the radio operational, and that'll be followed by making the transponder operational. I've got a Flightline FL76A VHF radio, and I've got a Garmin GTX 327 transponder, and coupled with them on the other end of the wiring harness will be a couple of pairs of headsets. These are Core KA1s. Okay, I've been putting off this as I put up other activities. Not looking forward to it. I have no avionics or electrical aptitude at all, at least with the pitot tube system, which I managed to push through over way too many hours. It's mechanical or physical. You can see what you're doing. It's hands-on. For a guy like me, it was relatively easy to understand, troubleshoot, and get working. Electrical, avionics, that's another thing altogether. So with Sammy's help, and perhaps all else fails, reaching out to the EAA community, I'll get the radio and the transponder working. I actually have powered them up before. They've been in the control panel. I powered them up. I know the lights come on. They do power up, but I also know they don't work, whatever that means. So I got to get them working. Wish me luck. Hey, Sammy. I think the headsets are a little big for you. We'll have to get you a custom pair.
Lots of activity at the airport today. Down at the helicopter base, looks like the fire base personnel are doing some helicopter training. And then out on the airfield, not much of a runway left. A couple weeks ago, contractors started ripping it out, starting off on a 2-month job to decrease the slope of the runway, repave it, replace the lighting system, fix up the drainage, and I think add a little bit of runway length as well. So, no flying activity except by helicopter for a 2-month period. Not so bad if your plane is like mine and it's not aviation worthy yet. But it must be a bit of a bummer for those who like to fly regularly and take advantage of the spring weather. Oh well. Onward and upward eventually.
Now I've got the radio mounted haphazardly outside of the control panel so that I can get at the wiring easily in behind it. Just hanging there in the same way I had the ASI gauge hanging free of the control panel where it would normally be inserted. Okay, so I'm just firing up the electrical system here. The Dynon EFIS display is on. I can turn the radio on. It powers up. I've got 2 channels set on it. 123.00 is the Powell River area mandatory frequency, and I can use it for doing a radio check with my fellow pilots here, or there's a base station over there in the Westview Flying Club clubhouse. And the other channel I have here set up, 118.60, is the Comox Airport weather report, the ATIS. And Comox being about 20 miles across the Salish Sea on Vancouver Island, 20 miles to the west of here. So if I put my headset on, and I switch the channel to Comox, I can very clearly hear the Comox ATIS weather, the continuous weather. I can hear it very clearly. Now, the first time I tried this the other day with this headset on the pilot side, it was not very loud. What I did was I took the jack plate, which is mounted behind me on a pylon. I took that headphone jack plate off, and I noticed that one wire was not connected. Connecting that wire up got me full volume on this headset. And I knew it wasn't full volume because the other headset the co-pilot headset had full volume right from the start. And if I change the channel to 123.00, which is the Powell River mandatory frequency, I have heard local traffic on here. So I know my radio is receiving. The problem is, as it was before, is when I try to transmit, I'm positive I'm not transmitting. Now, to transmit, you pull the push to talk or pull to talk trigger switch, which is mounted on each of the joysticks. And when I do that, the red button lights up here on the VHF, which indicates it thinks it's transmitting. So that would make you think it's transmitting. It's just that I had a couple of buddies over there in the clubhouse, and they told me there was nothing coming out. And when I tried calling to local traffic, which I knew was in the area, and I asked for a radio check, I got no response. So I'll just try that again here quickly. Powell River traffic, experimental Searey, Bravo X-ray Oscar, radio check. And by doing that, any local traffic should come back and tell me the condition of my radio signal that they're hearing. And the fact I hear nothing, and I'm basically just repeating what I did the other day, I know it's not working. Okay, so what am I going to do to fix this problem? It doesn't transmit. Well, I'm not electrical or avionics minded, as I've already said. So this is my thought process. This is what I've done so far. This is what I'm going to do. It could very well be wrong. If you have any comments, I'd certainly welcome them. Feel free to pile on. Okay, so because I receive so well, I don't think it's a power problem. I don't think it's an antenna problem. I don't think it's a basic radio problem or a headphone problem. Where I think the problem is either in the microphone of the headsets, the wiring from the microphone portion of the jacks to the push-to-talk switch, and the wiring harness connections into the radio. So basically, I think it's a wiring problem. So, wiring problem. The basis of my knowledge is I have a manual for the radio, and it has a pin connection list, which I've tried to match to the many pages, 17 pages of the wiring harness wiring list. There's a page for the jack connections. There's a page that includes the push-to-talk switches. There's a page that includes the connectors behind the radio. So there's lots of information there. And one piece of information which seems to be wrong is it has some extra wires, which it says in most cases are not needed to be connected, because most intercoms don't hook up a wire from the push-to-talk switch to the tip of the microphone jack. Okay, so I quickly grabbed onto that idea and didn't bother with it, didn't connect that wire up. So that's a redundant wire in my wiring harness. Okay, and then more recently, what I got to aid me was I actually found a wiring diagram for this radio. I think I got this off the internet, perhaps from Flightline's website, perhaps just from some forum. And that pretty glaringly, I don't know if you can see it, but all these green lines I've checked out, and the pink line is a wire from the push-to-talk switch to the tip of the jack of the microphones, which would be pretty evident then that this is an exception according to the wiring harness, and that should have been hooked up, and it's not. And then I also noticed on this both the pin connection list and the wiring guide for the radio is that there is a pin which is labeled as intercom ground to activate. And what the heck does that mean? Going on to the forums, there's quite a bit of discussion about this between some people saying they don't know what the heck that means. So you know what I did? I actually I called up Flightline. They're down in Spokane, Washington, I think, just south of the border here in Washington State. And a guy very quickly was on the phone and talked to me about this. And he told me that basically that ground to activate means if you have a separate intercom from your radio, then that wire would go through that other push-to-talk switch for that intercom. That's not my case. I have a combined radio and intercom. So he said that pin should just be grounded. And as far as I can recall, Now we're getting to the wiring in behind here, behind the panel. I didn't connect that up. So there's another thing. And he confirmed that this radio is an exception to what the wiring harness talks about, and that the tip of the microphone jack should be hooked up to the push to connect switch. Push to talk switch. Okay, wow, a lot of information in there. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the panel behind me where the microphone and headset connections are, hook up that wire to the tip of the microphone jack, hook it up to the push to talk switches, and then go in behind the panel where the D-sub connector is for the radio, where it hooks to the wiring harness, and make sure that other ground is activated, or other ground is in place, and check all the other connections while I'm in there. Yeah, let's get to it. I've taken apart the mounting plates for the pilot and co-pilot headset jacks. They normally mount up here on this cross beam, and these are the two plates, one on each side of this beam, and these are obviously the two jacks on each side. And I believe what I have to do here is attach two more wires, and these will go to the tips of the microphone jacks for both the pilot and the co-pilot, and they come from the push to talk. I believe this is why I'm not able to transmit from my deciphering of the circuit diagram that I downloaded from the internet for the radio, and the circuit diagram I've drawn up myself for my specific application, which is tied into the wiring harness wiring list. You can see lots of green on there indicating I think I got it right, and you can see some pink as well. Well, just a change of scenery. Here I am in the Spirit of Mackenzie Global Operations Workshop Annex number 1. If you are at all interested in aviation accidents and incidents and getting some up-to-date information as soon as something happens anywhere in the aviation world, check out a YouTube channel called Blanco Lero. Juan Brown is the host of the channel. He's a commercial big jet pilot, and he's got really good information and insight basically within hours of any major accident or minor accident involving a plane or an incident happens. Anyway, he's always talking about Blanco Lero global operations. So welcome to the home workshop. So what I'm doing here is I've taken this little bit of wiring harness which goes from the back of the radio and the transponder and hooks into the wiring harness which runs throughout the plane. And what I'm doing with all the wiring diagrams from the radio and the one I made up myself to interconnect the radio to the wiring harness is I'm using a conductivity meter here to go through the connections from the connector here for the radio, the connector here to the wiring harness, and making sure everything is correct. So what I found so far is there was at least one pin in here on the radio that was not hooked up correctly or was hooked up incorrectly, and also this ground to activate pin number 5 here in the connector for the radio was not hooked up to ground. So I'm remedying those situations here in the warmth, good light, lack of wind workshop annex to the global operations of Spirit of Mackenzie. And I'll get this back to the plane just as soon as I get this finished. Well, you might not think so from looking at this rat's nest of wiring, but I have corrected
what I think were mistakes in how I hooked up the wiring to the headphone and microphone jacks. And then I also worked on the wiring into the push to talk switch here, one on each side, and that's done down in these Molex connectors here. But unfortunately, the pin like these that are in these Molex connectors, which I need to change some, and you use a pin extraction tool like this. Well, not quite like this. This one is all beat up. It's a cheap tool. I didn't pay enough money for it. It worked a couple times some time ago, but now it doesn't allow me to extract the pins in the existing Molex connectors, so I'm stuck. So I've ordered a really good one, i.e. expensive one, from Aircraft Spruce, and that'll come in a week or so, and then I can finish up this wiring, get this radio and transponder wiring harness back in behind the panel, and then check the radio and then ultimately the transponder. But 11 hours so far on something that I estimated would take about 4 hours, and I'm nowhere near finished yet. Maybe just another 4 hours, but well, dream on, Bob.
Well, this is a great day for testing. Not testing anything on the plane, for testing a little wireless microphone my oldest son has just purchased. Thank you, Miguel. I guess he got irritated trying to listen to some of my videos with the wind kind of whistling through my spoken words. So this is the way I normally do it, trying to project my voice to the microphone that's mounted on the camera. Now shall we try it with the remote microphone.
Okay, so now I'm here with my remote mic, and hopefully this sound is better. There's still a breeze around me, and I'm standing about 5 meters away from the camera. I'm going to go to the back of the hangar, in fact into the hangar behind me, and because this signal is supposed to carry up to 20 meters from the microphone to the camera. So let's see how that works as I walk back here with a constant drivel of nonsense words, just checking the reception. Back here it looks like the contractor has piled up all the old electrical gear, signs, wiring, lights from the runway. They're all going to be replaced as part of this upgrade project. Okay, so how is it going? Test 1, 2, 3. So, following on my comment there that I wasted 11 hours on trying to get the radio working when I only estimated 4 hours. How am I doing on my overall progress plan? Well, as you may recall, I got this task list of all the things I want to get done over the 20-week period between February and June of this year, averaging 4 hours a week being the amount of time I thought I had free from my family and work obligations to be able to work on the plane. So a total of 80 hours here for all these tasks. So how am I doing? Well, one thing I did do was I made up this little chart which shows in blue the hours each week that I estimated I could put in, and the gray line is the cumulative hours, adding up to something in the order of 80 to 90 hours after 20 weeks. Orange vertical bar is how many hours I actually put in, as recorded in my build log, and the solid orange line is the cumulative hours. You can see at this point, as of today, the gray line and the orange line are very close, meaning I had estimated I'd put in about 40 hours to this point since February when I started this, and I put in pretty close to 40 hours. So I'm doing great booking the hours per my 4 hour per week estimate, but I'm actually making progress. Well, that's the sad part, because as a project manager, I really should be evaluating the quality of the hours I'm putting in. Am I getting things done? And to get a number on that, if you add up the hours I estimated for each of these tasks I finished, the ones in green with the check marks, it only adds up to 24 hours. So these tasks I've accomplished only earned me 24 hours, but they took me 24. That's about a 60% efficiency rate, which if I was a project manager on an industrial project as opposed to building my own plane, I'd get fired. That's not progress. So what I've got to do is I've got to pick up the efficiency of my work. I got to accomplish these tasks in the hours I estimated, or I'm going to significantly overrun the hours. But who cares if I overrun the hours? I'm not paying myself to do this. It's just a matter of finding those hours. So what I got to do over the next short while, perhaps while I'm waiting for my ability to get back onto my radio checking out in that time, maybe I should take a couple of days off work and work on some easier tasks here. Tasks that I can get done quicker than the estimated hours and get my earned hours up. So such tasks, what have I got here? I've got installing the vortex breakers on the top of the wing. That should be easy. Now, I've only estimated 2 hours to do it. But if I can install those little plastic pieces and glue them on the top of the wing in an hour or so, well, I'll get back on track. I could also try calibrating the fuel tank and the EFIS reading of the fuel. That should go quicker than I've estimated. And then I also have to do a fuel flow test. This is something I have to submit to the Transport Canada representative. So that's something I could jump on. Those are the things I hope to get done in the next week or so. Then get back onto the radio and the transponder. Oh boy. Gotta earn some hours here.
That's all, folks.